This is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
An undermanned New York Red Bulls side went up to last place Revs and allowed a goal in the 81st minute to take a bad 1-0 loss. This Saturday, the boys, with a return to Emil Forsberg, look to extend their 7-match home unbeaten streak on Collectable Night. It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. I'm Mark Fishkin here with Daniel Rebain. How are you, Daniel?
I'm doing fine. Good old Taco Tuesday. I had some tacos, so I'm fired up to be here.
What's your go-to taco?
I'm really basic, so I just get meat and cheese.
A little meat, little salsa on there too?
Yeah,
Or just
maybe a little bit, but like really basic.
Meat
good,
and cheese.
Yeah. So.
All right. I dig it. If you are watching us, please subscribe. Our subscriber count continues to grow. We're approaching an important milestone of 500 subscribers. We are thankful for our subscribers. If you're listening on a pod platform, please do your best to subscribe and hit us up with a nice review as well. That would be really, really appreciated. All right. Tonight on the show, we'll look back at the underwhelming, disappointing loss in New England. We'll give a Bull of the Week. Will we have one? I don't know. We'll preview Nashville coming into Red Bull Arena on Saturday. Our guest is Darren Rovell, the CEO and founder of Collect and former ESPN sports business reporter who is actually hosting Collectable Night Saturday at Red Bull Arena. He will be on site doing some cool promotions and then your emails. And so, Daniel, you lose to the last place team in the East, even if you're missing 5 starters, it's a bad result, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really else to say about it. It's a bad result. You should be able to go up to New England and with the way they've been playing all year and come away with something, at least a point. Like if they got out of there with a 0-0 result, you take it, you come back home and try to extend your home unbeaten streak. But to give up that goal, especially how they gave it up, it was just very disappointing. Just same old kind of defending and lapses that they've had all season in crucial moments to lose leads or lose points this season so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are 2 big stories coming out of this match. Not a match that I want to talk about a whole lot, but that's what we do here. I mean, on the last play, right, Kyle Duncan slow getting back to close down Carl's heel, which, again, it's Carl's heel. He delivered a picture-perfect pass. And then the other piece was, you've got Cam Harper playing right back. You've got Mohamed Sofo making his MLS debut a little slow to track. Harper is too close into the middle of the goal. Boateng literally does not have a player within 15 yards of him, and he is a qualified scorer in this league and did really well. You don't fault Ryan Mara, who did have a really solid save in the first half in this game, but that's piece 1. Piece 2 is, when you don't have your 2 big attacking pieces in Emil Forsberg and Lewis Morgan, the attack just was really soft and too many shots from way outside, too many weak shots. Corey Burke came in and did his best. Yengar got up, put one in the 15th row. They were not a team that looked like they were going to score. It looked a lot like 2023 out there.
Yeah, let's go to your first point with Kyle Duncan. Obviously, a lot of pressing points in this team when a ball goes back in towards midfield, and we saw Kyle Duncan, be a little too aggressive, and he went too far up the pitch and wasn't able to track back, and that kind of forces the rest of the defense to flow over to that side and leave a player wide open at the back post, and it's 1-0 just like that. And then to the other point. Yeah, the attack without, Lewis Morgan, with no Emil Forsberg, Dante Van Zier is trying to lead the line, and obviously we've seen without certain players in the lineup, he struggled. So there's not much depth attacking-wise when you look at this team when certain players are missing. And, that's got to be addressed this summer. If this team's going to be a real contender, like everybody wants this team to be. You're gonna have to improve certain positions on this team, whether that's bringing in a DP9, some more midfielders for competition. But yeah, all in all, just not the best result, especially going to last place in the Eastern Conference, New England.
Yeah. And again, only their fourth loss of the season. You can understand losing to Columbus in Columbus. You can understand a dreadful half in Miami, a hard-fought match against New York City when the Red Bulls were not the better team. And then this. I mean, this is the first real clunker that we've seen, and it certainly can be explained away by you have 5 really important players that aren't here. I don't know if Carlos again, you can't fault Mara on the goal. I don't know if Coronel makes that. It's a perfect ball that's close enough to Mara's feet that he can't get himself down quick enough. He does make contact with the ball, but again, the Red Bulls in general, even with 55% of their goals away, they just created. They won the XG battle. But they really didn't do enough. They clearly didn't do enough to win. So, I mean, we kind of revert to traveling fans being the bull of the week. Is there a player that in your mind stood out in the match for New York?
Not really. I would say like maybe Edelman just for what he was doing in midfield. But other than that, it was basically for the most part a boring match. Like they had some half chances here and there to maybe take the lead in the first half, but other than that, nothing much was coming Red Bulls' way this game.
Yeah, I'm going to call it, I think, traveling fans. If you made the ride up 95, you are one of our Bulls of the week. Was that a legitimate penalty shout for Edelman in the second half? Did he make contact with Ivacic or not really?
Not really.
Ivacic was named the MLS Player of the Match Day. Mind you, there were 4 matches in the entire match day, and just kind of silly. Let's talk a little bit about Nashville. We're going to put up some fun stats for you guys watching, and we'll get into Nashville SC. Nashville comes into Red Bull Arena 4-5-7 for 19 points. They're 9th in the East. They've scored 20 and conceded 22 in 16 games. They win penalties, and a lot of that is having Hani Mukhtar on your team because he gets in the box and he will hit the deck. They are a very physical defensive team. Up until recently coached by Gary Smith, and so they were 4th in MLS in yellows. They're not a strong road team, and that stat on the bottom, that was for the Revs last week that I did not replace, and wouldn't you know, New York crap the bed there. Okay, Nashville is a team in transition. They've been a strange case. They've had a lot of changes since these two sides met on opening day. They had only been coached by a single man, Gary Smith, since entering the league, but the Englishman was recently let go after some uninspiring play, and then stepped in Rumba Muntali from Zambia, who was an assistant coach with the team. In 4 games since been appointed interim head coach, he has 1 win, 2 draws, and a loss. The win was beating Cincinnati in Cincinnati, and that's no joke. They've been linked with multiple coaches, including USMNT head coach BJ Callahan. Hello. But they don't want to perhaps stray too far in the near term from their defensive roots under Gary Smith. And if there's an MLS team out there that lives and dies by their big scorer, it is absolutely Nashville. While they do have Walker Zimmerman, it's really all about Hani Mukhtar here and his ability to be a contributor with 4 goals and 4 assists this season. Numbers really far down for him, but nevertheless, he is the man to watch. In their last 5 games, they've scored 6 and they've conceded 3, though, so it has gotten a little better under Muntali. Last time out, they went and lost to New England at home in Nashville when Mukhtar had a PK saved in the 80th minute. Before that, the 2-0 win over Cincinnati in Cincinnati. They had a scoreless draw at Montreal. They had a 1-1 home draw with Atlanta. Hani Mukhtar with a PK there. And then before that, they beat They beat Toronto FC 2-0 with both goals coming after the 80th minute. I want to get to some history, and I know a lot of people are going to be upset when they see these stats. These stats are facts that has nothing to do with whether or not they come out of my mouth. They are facts nonetheless. This is the 6th meeting between these two teams. The Red Bulls have never lost to Nashville. They are 2-0-3 all time and 1-0-1 at Red Bull Arena. Nashville has only scored one time in those 5 games, and they haven't scored against New York in 320 minutes, and they have never scored at Red Bull Arena. Now, if those words come out of my mouth psychically make our team play badly on Saturday night, then so be it. But they are facts and they are important. The last time these two teams played was opening day, a scoreless draw. Fabio is the all-time leading scorer. Let's go, Fabio, against Nashville City. Their active scorer, our active scorer all-time, Kyle Duncan and John Tolkien, who, of course, is away with the U23s with a single goal. As with last week, there are going to be important pieces missing for both teams. Coronel is still away with Paraguay. He plays on Saturday. Noah Ayla, I believe, is away. Lewis Morgan for Euros. And Lewis Morgan starts his Euro tournament this Friday at 3 p.m. on Fox against host Germany. Yikes. Jose Reyes is injured, and Tolkien is with the U23s. Nashville has just the same number of challenges. Anibal Godoy, who's been playing in this league for, I feel like, 2 decades, is away with Panama. Randall Leal, who's an important Costa Rican for them, is injured. Shaq Moore is with the U.S. men's national team. Schaffelberg is not injured. He's with Canada. And Zimmerman is a question mark, and I say he's a question mark because he is rumored to be one of the 3 Olympic team overage call-ups, and he may be with the Olympic team this weekend, and he may not be playing. So who might we see? Actually, Zimmerman's on this chart. We're going to see a lot of very familiar faces here. Joe Willis, he of the 2012 Kenny Cooper penalty shot save, is in net. He has 5 clean sheets this season. Left back Daniel Lovitz, you'll love it at Lovitz. He is the left back. There are 3 All-American center backs. This is an All-American back line, and Muntali has been playing this kind of 5-2-2-1, if you will, because Nashville's going to try to lock it down in the back first. Alex Muil, our old friend, on Seeing Red with a goal and 2 assists. He's the right back, pushes up, gets into the attack. The center mids are absolutely names you must know. Drew Yearwood with a goal and assist, and Sean Davis with an assist. This is a very Red Bulls flavored team. Up top, it's Tyler Boyd, the one-time U.S. national, with a goal and assist. Hani Mukhtar with 5 and 5 in all competitions. And Sam Surridge with 7 goals and an assist. Again, Nashville has not scored against the New York Red Bulls in 320 minutes. And so, with that said, my friend, what are your thoughts? We're going to have Forsberg back. He started one game and came in as a sub in the other game for Sweden. I think they had a draw and a loss or 2 losses. They're not going to the Euros, but he came back and there's been no news about any injuries. What does adding Forsberg back into this lineup do for New York?
Before I get to that, I just want to say shout out to Lewis Morgan, by the way. Guess the injury call up for Scotland is going to the Euros, and what a journey for him. Phenomenal. Didn't think he would be back in this position because we've asked him multiple times this year with his play as Scotland ever kind of contacted him. He's had no contact. So congrats to him. But yeah, on to this point, getting Emil Forsberg back, huge. I think that's an understatement with his ability and playmaking ability that we've seen already this season with and without him. It's a dramatic change. And looking at that Nashville attack, I mean, they might have never scored at Red Bull Arena, but if there's a team to score against Red Bull Arena at Red Bull Arena, it's definitely this one. Those 3 up top are scary. So Red Bull's gonna need at least 2 goals to come away with anything probably in this game. So Emil Forsberg is going to be a huge addition back with this team this week.
And we know Forsberg's ability to track back and help clean things up in the back.
Yep.
When you've got when you've got Hani Mukhtar and you don't have a John Tolkien to play him, you have a Kyle Duncan and you have Cam Harper, who I thought by and large did pretty well in New England, but playing a former MLS MVP, I think, is a different story. And so, yeah, I think Forsberg, whether it's via the free kick, whether it's finally opening up for Van Zier, or Manuel, be able to make that triangle work somehow. Yeah, I agree. It's going to take multiple goals to beat this team. And that said, Nashville and Muntali are most likely going to come in and play the way that they play New York, which is stack the. I mean, it's endless, right? Stack the back, make it go. I mean, we've seen basically the last 2 times these teams have played, it's been scoreless until Token's 94th minute winner in the last game of the season on decision day last year.
Yep.
This series just doesn't have a lot of goals in it. And so New York obviously looking to continue to push their home record undefeated. They're in an interesting place. They know how badly they performed against New England. They know they really had a missed opportunity, and they're going to come out and hopefully be a little sharper this week, sir.
Yeah, and I mean, Coach Sandro Schwartz was upset with the performance, and rightly so. I mean, that game was at least they have to come out with a draw. Like the opponent they went up against, the circumstance, even with missing 5 guys, I mean, you have to come away with points. So getting right back at home, getting a result at home, I think that would be huge for this team and their confidence going forward.
Let me ask you a question. What we've seen this season is former Red Bulls coming back to Red Bull Arena and getting lovely, friendly, I think some sort of a plaque is given to them. We saw it with Tom Barlow. Yep. We saw it with Brian White, who then, of course, scored. You've got Yearwood and Muil and Sean Davis. These players have returned to Red Bull Arena before, but does New York make a big deal out of this? Do they welcome them back and give them flowers and all that before the game?
Well, I don't believe they did that their first time they came back, right? They didn't do that.
I think correct.
Other than Yearwood, because this is his first.
Yearwood's first time back, yeah.
But I mean, if they do it for Yearwood, and they haven't done it for the other 2, I would guess they probably include them. Why not? I mean, Muil, Bronx native, he gave everything for the club. Sean Davis as well. He left through free agency. He wanted more money or whatever it was. He gets a new life out in Nashville. There's no ill will towards these players, so I would expect something. I would hope they would do something.
Yeah. Well, I know that there are some fans that have taken umbrage at the friendly response, but at the end of the day, I mean, these are players that were meaningful for this team, especially in the case of Muil and Sean Davis, who were homegrown players that won a USL Cup and had good starts to their career here. Muil, obviously, I think a controversial player while he was here. I mean, he's hearing it like Van Zier's hearing it here and now, and he's hearing it like Manuel is hearing it now. So it'll be curious to see. Nevertheless, do you have a prediction for Saturday night, my friend?
I want to say 2-0, just to say, yeah, they still haven't scored at Red Bull Arena. So you know what? I'll stick with my assumption. We're going 2-0.
All right. I'm going to dare to be different and call it a 1-1 draw. That will still keep the unbeaten record alive. When we're back on Seeing Red, we're talking to Collects. Darren Rovell. Keep it here. Back at Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup, after a tough loss at New England and getting ready for Collectables Night at Red Bull Arena this Saturday night against Nashville. And we have someone special on the show this week who will be taking part in Collectables Night. That's Darren Rovell, the CEO and founder of Collect. And we're going to learn a little bit about that right now. Darren, welcome to Seeing Red. Thanks for joining.
Mark, thanks for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So, first of all, tell me a little bit about you and your shift. And it's been up for a couple of months now. Tell us about Collect and why we need it.
Yeah, I've been a sports business reporter for over 20 years with ESPN, CNBC, went to the Action Network to cover gambling. And over the course of the last 15 years, I've been a big time collector and loved it and thought about it every day. And I think it just got to a point that people are talking about collectibles as much as they are but there really has not been a journalism outlet covering all angles of it. Part of that has been because there hasn't been enough to cover, but in the last 3 or 4 years, it's gotten to the point where it has, and I wanted to be the first mover in the space. So we're having fun talking about everything from cards to autographs to sealed iPhones and video games and everything that makes me feel like a kid again.
There you go. And that's what sports are all about. It's giving you that rush. I brought with me one of mine. This is a original first game ever kind of commemorative ticket stub for the first ever Metro Stars game back in '96. But Saturday night at Red Bull Arena, you are kind of hosting and driving the first ever collectibles night. And for the first 7,500 fans, there is a clickable brick figurine of Emil Forsberg. But tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing.
Well, we're going to start before from 6 to 6:45. Buster Scher and I, who's been in the collectible space for a while, going to talk about the space and what's going on in cards and everything. I mean, the excitement. I live in New Jersey, and you just can go to a random show in Parsippany, and there's the auxiliary parking is filled, and the next parking is filled, and it's not like Lawrence Taylor and all these big stars are there. It's incredible to see, especially the youth of America, and how much they're into collectibles. Probably the most since the mid '80s when I was doing it as a kid. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to have people ask questions. Certainly, we'll be there for that, and then throughout the night, we'll be doing some cool things. My favorite thing is probably we're going to have 5 cards, and it's almost like a Price is Right game. You have to put together 3 cards that are over $50,000 out of the 5. And there's some traps there, and it's actually not that easy because you'd think like, oh, based on this person, but then there's a lower grade of that card, so that card is worth less. So it's going to be pretty fun. And then also the Red Bulls are going to offer a ticket on the way out, which I am a big ticket collector. I have about 1,800 tickets. And, including the Hand of God ticket. I have the 1999 Women's World Cup ticket signed by Brandi Chastain, Mia Hamm. So the idea that a team is going to actually print out a ticket is pretty cool. And now we have to hope that the win against Nashville is historic, and then it will be worth more.
There you go. I mean, we've seen over the last few years game programs fade away in favor of digital experiences. For the most part, ticket stubs, right? This is a big deal that a ticket stub is being created. I now have downloaded the Memento app, which allows me to kind of save my ticket experiences. I often take photos with the people I was at the game at in an effort to kind of share, remember that experience. Do you see a time in our digital age where these type of memorabilia comes back into the fold? And
tickets are going to have to come back, I think, in a way that, yes, digital helps them know who's showing up to the game, whether the person that buys it is actually showing up, whether it's I understand it. I definitely understand why it's done. At the same time, there is want for a physical ticket to be out there. Not if the game against Nashville is historic, but what happens if it's the first time I brought my son? Right. I mean, there are so many things that are more significant than even what happens on the field. So we saw the Blackhawks, what they've done, knowing that they had Connor Bedard coming in. They decided to offer for $10, you can buy a ticket. It has your seat number afterwards. So it's not necessarily a commemorative ticket. It's kind of like a real ticket after with your exact seat number. And then it has a QR code that allows you to scan, and then it has the highlight of the game. So they've done something like that. And then, I've talked to other teams about offering season ticket holders a sheet of tickets whereby it costs as much as the team is paying.
Right.
And if there's a grade of, and then it's not a commemorative ticket. So when you grade it by PSA, which also grades cards, it's a real ticket. And so, yes, you have to come up with a design, and it's a lot more labor intensive than digital. But I think teams are going to start to understand it's worth it. There's really been a cry out there to make tickets available.
The Red Bulls a number of years ago, 6, 7 seasons ago, they were giving out commemorative posters for every game and using local artists, highlighting them, all different styles, and bringing in different elements of going to see a Red Bulls game. And that's expensive, and that costs real money. Unfortunately, the team did away with it. They have moved into the commemorative space themselves. This is Daniel Rebain, Red Bulls midfielder from Warren, New Jersey. This was on Marvel Night, and a lot of these branded nights are great ways that teams can build some sort of memorabilia around that. There's a healthy market for Metro Stars and Red Bulls memorabilia that we're seeing online. I want to turn my attention to just your sports business reporter hat. The league is coming up on their 30th anniversary, and they'll have their 30 teams. As an OG fan who was then in his mid-20s, that the idea of MLS being played in the southeastern U.S. in places like Nashville or Atlanta or Charlotte in NASCAR country seemed ridiculous to me. I'm curious what your overall thought is about the growth of the game here, building up to 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I was, at least in 2000, I was reporting on the MLS. I remember the Beckham, the whole Beckham thing. I think where the league falters and gets in over their skis are, it's not going to be the Premier League, and it's okay. And it's okay. No one needs any saving. No, we don't need David Beckham to save it. We don't need Lionel Messi to save it. I think when we get out of control every once in a while, and I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying, I was at the Red Bulls game when Messi was there, and there was a concern for a minute that, beer was going to be thrown onto the field because Messi wasn't going to play, and I just think there's these high stakes games that we get into, the Zlatan, the Messi, the Beckham, that isn't necessarily necessary.
Yeah.
It does bring in people, but are they really staying? Are they, I think the MLS is just great how it is. And I think that, the idea for it to be like hockey, for example, I think the best thing that Gary Bettman did is, at some point, maybe it was in 2004, when they decided they were going to have the work stoppage, saying, listen, our fans are our fans. We got to fix the game. It doesn't matter if they're not going to go anywhere else. I don't think MLS fans are going anywhere else. And we don't have to continue to say, well, it's the biggest game in the world. Why isn't it more of a bigger game in the US? We've seen the valuations go crazy.
Skyrocket. Yeah.
Skyrocket.
So you saying, I think MLS is great the way it is, I think, a wonderful, correct sentiment that is shared by far too few people in the media, right? Because it's always about the next thing, and it's always about, well, it's not
and
the
the
NFL.
Next thing is never, Mark, the next thing
is never reachable.
The flash in the pan, and is never the person who, because what happens is you have a game where Messi doesn't play, and all the people that you thought you were getting are now gone. And then they hate the MLS because it's just about that one moment. And you can't get it down to that one moment. That's not what it should be.
That guy in Vancouver is actually suing because Messi didn't play on his game. One more piece of memorabilia, and then we'll finish up with a reminder about Saturday night. This is a league-driven before the first Hudson Derby. That's the Empire State Building. With is New York blue or is New York red? The answer is red. But Darren, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, it is a cool piece. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you taking your time. It's the Crossbar at 6:00 on Saturday night, correct?
Yes, so people will be talking, but we certainly want people to ask questions. There's a lot of things that are confusing about the card world, the graded world, the memorabilia world. Do I have something that's great? Is it not? Is it real? Is it fake? I mean, this is it's a fun marketplace. But it's also complex, and that's why we started Collect.
Awesome. And where can people find Collect?
cllct.com.
Collect.
So
Vowels be damned.
We're without the vowels.
All right, we don't need them. Darren Rovell, the creator of Collect, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate learning a little bit about collectibles, and we're looking forward to seeing you Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm excited for Saturday in Harrison.
Awesome. We've got more Seeing Red coming up after this short break. Stay with. All right, we're back on Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Please write us if and when you can at seeingredny@gmail.com. 2 emails this week. I was expecting more fire, to be frank. I was expecting some spleens to be vented. The one thing that we talked about with Matt Harmon last week is when this team doesn't play well, they own it. They are very, very upfront about it. Wasn't good enough, and it's got to be better. And again, you ask the fans before the season started, you're in 4th place in the East within a shout of the top of the East after half the season. Most fans would probably take that, but this last game though was just really, really not great. Please write us. And the other thing, I just want to talk about Darren Rovell. I know it's a slightly different kind of guest for us, talking about the collectible business. Please, if you have the opportunity to go see him at the Crossbar at 6 p.m., if you're in Harrison early, I think it'd be really interesting. If you're a collector of memorabilia, I'm surrounded by memorabilia here.
I have some too. So
do you have what's your favorite item of Red Bulls memorabilia? What do you got?
Red Bulls memorabilia? I don't really think I have anything like specifically, but I would say I'm more big into hockey memorabilia,
Yes.
and I have a couple signed game worn jerseys from the Devils that are framed in my family room. So those
Awesome.
I cherish those a lot. So
I have a Tim Howard U.S. signed goalkeeper kit that now that he is in the Hall of Fame, I think I will find a way to get in a frame. But nevertheless, again, it's not every day you have someone with 2 million Twitter followers on Seeing Red.
Yeah.
So we appreciate having him. Thank you so much. All right, 2 emails tonight. Here's Matt Dykhouse that says, "Hey, Matt, Joe, and Dan, thanks for continuing your great work covering the team. I look forward to each episode every week. First off, right before listening to the episode, I saw the report about Lewis Morgan getting called up to Scotland for the Euros, and that is huge. It's a real recognition of his personal performances and of MLS. I hope he gets a real chance to show himself during the tournament." And he did play the last 20 or so minutes in a match, warm-up match for Scotland over the weekend.
Yep.
I want to give my opinion on a couple of topics that have come up on the show recently. First, I think Forsberg's season has been better than some people have been saying. Yes, he's our DP captain, and more goals would be nice, but I think his remit is focused on how much off the field as it is on the field. He's there to raise standards, be a leader, and draw attention to the team, all of which I think he's done successfully. His job is not just goals, so I don't think we can put too much stock when rating his season so far. And he's not a 9 anyway. It reminds me of what they say about in the NFL about the intangibles that a star QB can bring. I think Forsberg brings those to us. Second, I agree with what Gustavo said about Reyes. I do think he is our weak link in defense, but like Gustavo, I think his problem is his consistency, not game to game, but even within the same game.
Yep.
I know we had good defensive record last season, but something about Reyes didn't pass the eye test for me. He seems a bit chaotic at times, and I think it makes the rest of the defense unsettled and not feel 100% comfortable. He's also capable of big individual mistakes at any time, even during his good games. See red cards and errors leading to goals. Anyway, thanks for all you do. And Joe, we miss you and hope that you are getting better. That's Matt Dykhouse. Thanks, Matt. What are your thoughts? Yeah, it's a great email.
I'll start with the Reyes point. And I mean, what a spot on like description of Andres Reyes. I mean, that was perfect. I mean, Andres Reyes could be having the perfect game, and then 1 second later, something in his brain just clicks and he's getting a red card. Right now this season, yeah, I would say him and potentially Kyle Duncan are the two weakest links for the defense. And I mean, when a certain like center back that you're expecting to be stable and bring fortitude to the defense is chaotic and erratic, I mean, yeah, that could unstabilize the whole team. So he's most likely going to be a bench guy once everybody's fully back, once they get healthy and everything. So I don't think you really have to address that. Just, hope you got to hope basically that he doesn't commit a serious error when he is in the game, and hopefully he can get more consistent. And then for the first point with Forsberg, I mean, yeah, he brings up some good points that he is here for more than his on the field experience and contributions. So I mean, when we're always around him, he's a professional, like one of the best guys that we've been able to talk to, at least for me, at least when I'm talking about Red Bull. I mean, he's a class act. He's always giving great answers, and I believe when they are at the training facility, he's upping the level that is in training. So
absolutely,
he brings up some great points. Obviously, on the field, you would want some more out of a guy that's making $6 million, and with his experience over in the Champions League and over in the Bundesliga. But I think that will more goals and assists will eventually come.
And it'll be interesting to see who they bring in over the summer to help, for sure. Thank you, Matt, for your great email. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
then
Matt.
Lastly, Jordan Glass, gents, not what the team wanted or needed this week. It's a tough loss, but can you shrug it off as 5 starters were out? I think so. Schwartz was spot on and being frustrated with some after the game. Same issue we saw last season. Dante and Manuel not producing. I'm not going to tear them apart because they've played well this season, just not on the field at the same time. Bring back the 5 starters, and this is a win. So with that, I shrug it off and move on. Curious about your thoughts about Red Bull buying into Leeds United. Red Bull has a history of being linked to Leeds, but now it's moving forward. What are your thoughts on how it will affect the Red Bulls? Best Jordan, that's a great question. You want to tackle that or Dante and Manuel?
Yeah, I'll go for the first point first. I feel like if you're in that room, you kind of have to shrug it off and be like, you know what, guys, we're missing a bunch of guys, key guys, and we have to move on from this. Obviously, we don't want to be losing to last place in the league. So just move on, just lick your wounds and get back to it. And that's probably the right mindset for them in the building. Got to move on. Next game up. So, but from our perspective, we always have to see if this is a continuing trend. Fortunately enough, this was the first time we've seen one of these performances against a lowly opposition like New England. No offense to New England fans, but that's just the reality of this season. So if this happens again in the near future, then more questions will be asked. Looking to the Leeds thing, are they actually buying into the ownership, or is it just that Red Bull is becoming like their main sponsor?
I think they're taking a minority stake in the team in addition to being the main sponsor. I mean, from everything that we've read, that Leeds is such a special club in English football, and the idea of them becoming RB Leeds is never something that they would have considered. They're going to wear the Red Bull name on their shirt. Yeah, I mean, if I'm Red Bull, I want a piece of the most lucrative. Not that they're not a Premier League team this year, but they want a piece there for sure.
Yeah, I think from Red Bull business standpoint, I mean, this is a smart move. Getting into one of the most iconic brands in English football. Leeds United back in the 90s and early 2000s were one of the biggest clubs in all of the Premier League. So obviously they've fallen back on some hard times recently, but they were up in the Premier League for a couple of years before they got relegated again. So once they're able to get back promoted again, which they'll probably go go for it this year. I mean, they just missed out on this year. So I think once they get back into the Premier League from a business standpoint, that's probably one of the smartest business moves they've probably made in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, personally, as long as Austria continues to send us players like Emil Forsberg and hopefully someone else of meaningful quality, I don't think you can necessarily complain. The attention on MLS and the attention on American soccer over the next 2 years as we build for the World Cup, I wouldn't concern myself too much with what does a Red Bull Leeds involvement in Red Bull in England mean. It probably means, perhaps just more players in the Red Bull system, and perhaps there's a Red Bull Leeds player that's having some trouble sticking, and we're able to get a hold of that. Not that championship players often work out for us. Bradley Wright Phillips sure did. Yep. But going back to Jordan's first point about Dante and Manuel not producing together, I go back to the NYCFC game, and there were a couple of times where one of them got into the box with a good look, but they were so far apart from each other that they really couldn't play against each other, and they really were not in a position to be able to contribute off a rebound. And it's something that I've now seen a couple of times in a row when those two guys are in together. I just don't think they know how to play together. I just don't think they're aligned in you make the run, I make the run, you stay behind, I'll stay behind. And, in a world where Lewis Morgan has now been elevated to the 9, except for the next 4 or 5 weeks or 3 weeks, they don't have, they're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah. And you bring it up. I just think whenever these two guys play together, for the most part, it's either they're making the wrong decision, or another guy's just doing something on their own. Like especially when in that NYC game, there was a couple of moments where Dante would get in behind the NYC defense, and you're like, just shoot the ball. And he's just trying to cut it back into the middle with his weak foot. And you're like, okay, well, that just wasted a whole chance. Or when Manuel is running in behind and with the ball and he's shooting the ball from 30 yards out and it just goes wide. They're like, you could have just kept running. So, I think that's just a chemistry thing. Maybe these guys just aren't clicking together in training. It's just not working out. And if that's the case, then they definitely have to figure out bringing in a new 9 this summer, especially if these two are going to have to play together for the next month.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan, thank you so much for your email. We've come to an end of another terrific Seeing Red, episode 577. Joseph Goldstein, we miss you so very much. We're thinking about you every day. I'd certainly like to thank Zach Feldman for stats, for Darren Rovell for stopping by. Wow. I mean, insane. Daniel Rebain, a great guest host as always. Daniel, where can people find you?
You can find me on X at PVT McBain, and then on Instagram as well, Daniel Rebain 97.
Fantastic. Let's go Red Bulls. Daniel calls Saturday's match a
2-0 win.
2-0 win. I'm going to call it a 1-1 draw. We'll be back next week to hopefully have a happy recap of the Red Bulls extending their home unbeaten streak. For everyone here at Seeing Red, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next week. Let's go Red Bulls, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you guys.